we have to ask you, because you know the answer to this more than most, how Donald Trump is doing, how the former president is feeling physically and emotionally as this gets underway.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that we're less than 72 hours from what could have been a true tragedy. And obviously there was one tragic loss at that rally, and our hearts go out to that family. But, you know, he's resilient. He's the toughest man I've ever met. He's a fighter. He's doing great. Physically, he's doing great. You know, everybody got to see him for a little bit last night, walk out. And I'll tell you, the feeling there in that arena was incredible. And I think a little bit emotional. And I actually think maybe a little bit emotional for him as well. It was wonderful that we are able to go forward with this convention, that nothing has changed for this week. But I think you will see on Thursday that there will be a change in his speech. He said himself he went back and ripped up the old speech and is rewriting one.
Did. Well, so considering that this convention did start on such a somber note in many ways in the immediate aftermath of the attempt on his life, how do you see this changing the trajectory of the campaign? Historically, you may see a bump in polling after a convention. Fundraising, for example. What is your expectation, and did you have to reset it just because of the events of last weekend?
Well, actually, my father-in-law himself was the one who said on Saturday, actually, when we spoke to him after this happened, he said nothing changes. We want to go forward. We want to have this convention. And I think we expect to see all of those things. But I do think this is a very unique opportunity for unity. And I think that you're going to hear that from him on Thursday night. But I think that that is what we hope to get out of this convention, this moment in time. And as we go forward, obviously, we want to win an election. We're going to be focused on that. We're going to focus on a ground game and or get out the vote efforts and all of the things necessary. But I do think this is a time to really reflect on who we are as Americans, and that there is more that unites us than divides us. And I hope we can take that all the way through the campaign, all the way to November 5th.
We were talking before you joined us about the shifts in fundraising, which, of course, you were right in the middle of, going from Joe Biden outraising Donald Trump 2-1 to essentially the reverse and more. I don't know if we're at 3-1 now or how you would describe it. But part of this convention itself is also to raise money for the campaign. How much are you targeting, and how profitable will this be?
Well, we actually had a big fundraiser earlier today, and we raised, gosh, I'm not sure exactly the figure, but it was a high dollar fundraiser, and we had a packed group of people in there. So I'm sure we'll get those numbers out soon. But yeah, this is an interesting time, and it's interesting, to your point, to see the shift. And I attribute that, of course, to my father-in-law, to Donald Trump. He has been able to really tap into something in the American people. If you look in the aftermath of that conviction in New York, the 48 hours after that, we raised $70 million. 30% of that money, though, came from people who had never once donated to Donald Trump. These are small dollar donors. These are average Americans. I think our average donation was somewhere around $70. That tells you that there is such support for this man out there. And we are so blessed, obviously, to have these great supporters. But we're bringing in new supporters, and I think that is what ultimately matters. And so we're going to continue on that trajectory. We're going to continue fundraising, and we're going to put all that money to good use. Election season is right around the corner. I think we're 60-some days away from early voting starting.
Well, so as we consider the use of the money, knowing you were just talking about all these people who are using their dollars to express their support for Donald Trump for president, there's only so much he can do as president without the buy-in of Congress. So the composition of the House and Senate is also going to matter for actually getting his agenda across. To what extent do you plan to allocate those resources into some of those more difficult races to either flip the Senate or retain the House?
Well, it's huge. It's everything. You know, it's obviously we want to win the White House. But to your point, you can't do that much other than executive order if you don't have a House and a Senate. And we certainly want to expand the lead in the House and take back the Senate. And obviously, we have our partners at the NRCC and the NRSC who are primarily responsible for those races. But look, anywhere we as the RNC think we can be a value add and give a boost that is needed, we certainly will turn our attention. You look at a lot of very important congressional races in states like New York and California. You have some, Montana's a big state as well. And so wherever we see that we are needed, we will be there as the RNC.
Hearing the word unity a lot around this convention. You've probably used it a couple times yourself. What form will that take when Nikki Haley gets to the podium tonight? There are questions about, will she be booed? Will she be received by the crowd? What will she say to bring the crowd into her corner?
well, we have not given her any pointers on her speech, whatever she wants to say tonight, she will come out and say. But I think it is a show of true unity. And I don't ever think you have seen the Republican Party more united than we are right now. I mean, you had the meeting just recently with Donald Trump in D.C. with all the lawmakers, the Republican lawmakers. These are people who a lot of them have been very critical in the past of Donald Trump. They came together. They said now is the time to really unite as a party. And we're seeing that at this convention. And I think having Nikki Haley come tonight and speak at the Republican convention is huge. It is a moment that we need to see as a party. And anyone who had any questions as to would that be a problem going forward, they're going to be answered tonight. And I actually think she's going to be received really well.
Well, as we talk about this idea of unity within the Republican Party, I'm not sure the same can be said about the Democratic Party right now, as so many members of that party have come out and told Joe Biden that he needs to drop out of the race. He insists he's not doing so. But if the group pushes him in that direction, what changes for the RNC the moment that happens? What do you have to do differently if it isn't Biden leading the Democratic ticket?
Well, look, I don't think that we've seen polling with any of the proposed replacements for Biden that really give us that much concern. I think our message still stays the same, and that is you can actually look back and think about what your life was like with Donald Trump in office. And that's what we talk about here at this convention. The themes of the convention are make America safe again, wealthy again, strong again, and great again. And I think that's what we're going to continue to do throughout this election cycle. Talk to American voters and say, listen, think about how your life was so much better with Donald Trump in office. You didn't see sky-high inflation. You didn't see high gas prices, an open southern border, wars breaking out around the world, our standing on the world stage diminished. They know what they had with this man, and we have to continue to deliver that message, no matter if it's Joe Biden. And I agree with you, that is not the picture of unity on the other side of the aisle or anyone else they might put up. We're ready for it.